Good morning, grade nines. We are back here with our natural sciences lesson. Today's lesson is for second term. Remember, for the past 2 days, we've been doing the revision for the first term. So today we are doing the introductory lesson to the chemistry. So now it's the second term. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy the lesson. So when we're looking at the chemistry, before we look at the chemistry, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Kolisani Mbata, and you can find me on Twitter at MbataX, or you can find me on Instagram at XKIM. So actually answer the questions there. When you direct message me, I will be answering your questions. So thank you for joining this natural science journey. I hope you enjoy as much as I will be enjoying your company. What you'll learn by the end of today's lesson, you will understand the periodic table, the elements that are found in the periodic table, how we name compounds, the chemical equations and the reaction presentation, and also how to balance your chemical equations. So basically, what is an element? And an element is a pure substance that is made up of very tiny particles called atoms. So atoms, similar atoms, a group of similar atoms will obviously form an element. So in an element, there's just one type of an atom. So the atoms in an element cannot be broken down into smaller particles by a chemical reaction. So once an element is formed, it cannot be broken down. An element will remain an element. So in our periodic table, you will find 114 elements, and then they are listed in the periodic table. All the elements that are different, but all the elements are different, but sometimes they behave in a similar way. You'll understand this as we continue with our lesson, how elements can behave in a similar manner. So here's a picture of your periodic table. I hope you can see the periodic table there, grade nines. So the periodic table of elements, it is a table of chemical elements arranged in order of atomic number, usually in rows. So remember, I've explained to you information about each element. So when you're looking at the periodic table, you will see the information of each element. How are you going to see this? You will see this by that every element has its own block. The chemical symbol tells us the name of the element. So some of the periodic tables, you will see the name and the symbol. Other periodic tables will just give you the symbol. So it is important for you to know the symbol of elements. And then small number next to the symbol is called atomic number. So next to the symbol of an element in your periodic table, you will see two numbers. There's a small number and a big number. So they say the small number next to a symbol is called atomic number, and the larger number is called a mass number. So an atomic number is a number of protons in the nucleus of an element. Then atomic number, it's a number of electrons spinning around the nucleus, because the number of electrons equals the number of protons in a neutral atom. So you also have a mass number. So a mass number is a number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. So a mass number is the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. So atomic number is equal to a number of neutrons in the nucleus. I hope grade nines are following me. So 12 there is the bigger number in the carbon element. So our carbon, the symbol is C, and then the mass number is 12. the atomic number is 6. When you're looking at your periodic table, you look at the carbon, and then you will see, okay, carbon has the mass number of carbon is 12 and atomic number is 6. So when you're looking at the hydrogen, hydrogen is the first element in the periodic table, and is in the first block of the periodic table. And the symbol for hydrogen is H. It has 1 proton in the nucleus and 1 electron spinning around the nucleus. Then the mass number shows us that there are no neutrons in the nucleus of a hydrogen atom. Grade 9, this is very important for you when you will be doing chemical equations, when you will be naming compounds. It is important for you to understand all this background information. Arrangement of elements in the periodic table. Remember, I said elements in the periodic table are arranged in groups and periods. Groups are vertical columns. So when you're looking at your periodic table, the vertical columns, obviously, they will be your groups. So we have 18 groups in a periodic table. So if you're looking at your periodic table and then you count up to 18, you'll find groups there. Elements in the same group behave in a similar way. Remember, I told you that elements in a same group, they do behave in a similar way. So what happens is, even though the number of atoms, they won't be the same in elements, but for being in the same group, their behavior will be the same. Elements in the same group behave in a similar way. Remember that, grade 9. They have the same chemical properties. That means when they actually react with other elements, they will react in a same way. Potassium, sodium, and lithium are all in group 1. They will react in similar way. When you're looking at your periodic table, you will see where is sodium, where is potassium, where is lithium. That is the same group. Are we clear, grade 9? So all group 1 elements react vigorously with water and release of gas. So now, irregardless of the atomic number or the mass number, for the fact that they're in the same group, which is group 1, they will react in a similar way. Are we clear, grade 9s? They form similar products when they react with oxygen. So when they react with oxygen, we will get the same products, grade 9, because we said the behavior is similar. So whatever the byproduct is, it will be similar. They are all quite soft and can be cut with knife. So periods, we just discussed the group. We all know that we've got 18 groups in a periodic table, grade 9s. Don't forget that. 18 groups in a periodic table, and we have 7 periods. What are periods exactly, grade 9s? Periods is the periodic table. In the periodic table are the rows, and they run from left to right. Remember, we said the groups are vertical. So now these ones are horizontal. They're running from left to right. And then we say those are our periods. And we are now aware that we've got 7 periods in the periodic table. The atomic number of the elements increase by 1 as you go from left to right across the periodic table. So now we're looking at the atomic number. We're not looking at the mass number. So now from period 1 until period 7, they will increase with 1, 1, 1 until period 8. We can use groups and periods to describe where an element is in the periodic table. E.g., calcium is in group 2, period 4. Can you see that, grade 9s, in your periodic tables? I hope you are carrying your periodic tables, because I did say yesterday that today we'll be doing chemistry. So chemistry is the periodic table, grade 9s. Let us look at this. Use your periodic table now, grade 9s, to actually give symbol of zinc. What is the symbol of zinc? The symbol for zinc is Zn. The symbol for the symbol for zinc is Zn. What is the name of the symbol Cu? What is the name of the element Cu there? The name of the element Cu is copper. Are we clear, grade 9? Cu is copper. What is the symbol for gold? What is the symbol for gold, grade 9? Yes, grade 9, I'm waiting on you. We are interacting today. So the symbol for gold will be G U. AU. The symbol for, the symbol for gold is AU. And then the symbol Fe, which element is it representing? Fe. Which symbol is Fe representing? That is iron. That is iron. And then mercury, what is the symbol for mercury, grade 9s? The symbol for mercury is Hg. The symbol for mercury will be Hg. And then Ag, what is the name of the symbol Ag? What is the name? Grade 9, that will be your silver. I can see you all, you are participating with me. Thank you very much. And then iodine. What is the symbol for iodine, grade 9? That will be I. So it is in caps, uppercase I, it will represent iodine. Now you see how the periodic table works, grade 9. So it is important to know the name and the symbol. For example, for silver, it's not S, but it's Ag. For mercury, it's Hg. It's not always like zinc, and then you'll get what you call Zn. I hope you understand why it is important to know both the symbol and the name. So now you can answer for yourself. How many groups are in the periodic table? We all agreed that we've got 18 groups. And then how many periods? Remember that groups run horizontally. So how many groups are in the periodic table? We've got 18 groups. How many periods are there in the periodic table? We've got 7 periods. What elements are in the same group as hydrogen? So the groups in it will be lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, until francium. Are we clear? You now understand the groups, grade 9s. You now understand the groups. Then you will also answer this one. What elements are in the same group, in the same period as carbon? So carbon is in period 2, and the elements that are in the same period with it's lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine, also neon. Now you understand how we see it, ne? You are using your periodic table, grade 9. You are using your periodic table, grade 9. What elements are in the same period as carbon? You're looking at your periodic table, and then you now already know that periods run from left to right, from left to right. So you say, okay, carbon is in group 2, is in period 2, therefore lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and neon are in the same period. So how many elements are represented in the periodic table? How many elements are represented in the periodic table? We said there are 144. So write down the names and symbols of the first 20 elements. Write down the names and symbol of the first 20 elements. So the first 20 elements will be hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, potassium, and calcium. The periodic table has elements. The elements are arranged in groups and periods. Groups are vertical and periods are run in rows, left to right. Elements in the same group behave in a similar way. We've got 18 groups and 7 periods. Grade 9, please use this information. It will help you next year in grade 10 if you are obviously going to take the physics stream. Then you said the classification of elements. We can further classify elements into 3. We've got metals, non-metals, and semi-metals. Most of the elements in the periodic table are metals, are in the middle and on the left-hand side of the periodic table. They are all solid at room temperature, which is 25 degrees Celsius. Non-metals on the right-hand side of the periodic table. They are all gas at room temperature, and few are solid at room temperature. When we're talking about room temperature, we're talking about 25 degrees Celsius. We've got semi-metals, and then there are few elements, and they are called semi-metals because they have both metal and non-metal properties. So now you already know the properties of metals, non-metals, and semi-metals. So you actually can see the non-metals and the metals in your periodic table. They are not always in the same color if you're using a colorful or a colored periodic table. So they say identify elements in the compound steps. These are steps for naming compounds. So now you already know what are elements then. So for you to name compounds, it is actually very, very important for me to mention that a compound is formed by elements. So whenever you add element and element, you will get a compound. So now how do you name this compound? A compound, you need to know these 4 steps, grade 9. You identify the elements in the compound. You write down the name of the metal first. You already know that you find your metals where in your periodic table. Therefore, you will know this is a metal. And then when you write down the name of the metal first, whenever you are naming a compound, you write the name of the metal first. If the compound contains only 2 elements, name the second element and change the ending to ID. So it's IDE. If the compound contains 3 elements of one of which is oxygen, name the element that is not oxygen and change the ending to ATE. Let's see how is that going to work. So let's see if you are following me. How many different elements are there in the following compound? Sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. So we've got 2. We've got how many? We've got 2. Isn't it that we said here? We said if the compound contains only 2 elements, the second element and it changes the ending to IDE. And then if their compounds contains 3 elements, we're gonna have potassium nitrate. Are we clear? So we've got potassium and nitrogen there. And then the name changes to potassium nitrate. Then you've got calcium fluoride, you've got copper carbonate, and then you've got zinc hydroxide. You see? Now, how many elements are there in zinc hydroxide? How many? We've got 3. We've got zinc, we've got hydrogen, we've got oxygen. Then that will be your zinc hydroxide. Because we said when they react with what you call, when they react with oxygen, the name changes to an oxide, remember. Some compound names have prefixes. So the prefix is obviously the first part of the word. Those who are doing English, I hope everyone is doing English. So the prefix is the first part of the word. So some compounds have prefixes to show how many atoms of a certain element the compound contains. We've got mono, which means 1. Di means 2. Tri means 3. Tetra means 4. So you've got CO, which is carbon monoxide. So we only have 1 oxygen atom it means 1 oxygen atom has combined with the carbon atom, and then you get carbon oxide. Then you have CO2, CO2, which is carbon monoxide. This is the wrong representation of carbon dioxide and sulfur trioxide and calcium chloride. I will fix this in a moment. But CO2, it is not represented like that. And then we will fix this just now, grade 9s. In the next slide, I hope so. Then sulfur trioxide, because 3 oxygen atoms have combined with a sulfur atom. So because 3 oxygen atoms have combined with, it will be sulfur trioxide. That tri means 3. 3, they have combined with that. And then calcium, carbon tetrachloride. Carbon tetrachloride, 4 carbon atoms have combined with 4 chlorine atoms combined with a carbon, and then they form carbon tetrachloride. That means it's 4. Tetra, 4, tri, 3, di, 2, mono, 1. There are some exceptions. These rules, for example, when you've got OH is called hydroxide. OH is an hydroxide. When a metal is bonded to OH, or when a metal is bonded to a hydroxide, the compound's name will end with IDE. Are we clear? It's hydroxide. Then, for example, sodium hydroxide is called sodium hydroxide, even though it has 3 elements in the compound. Because it bonded with a hydroxide, it will end with IDE. Yes. Are we clear on that one? Write the names of the compounds that contain the elements listed below. For example, sodium and oxygen will form sodium oxide. Sodium and oxygen forms sodium oxide. Lithium and carbon and oxygen, what do we get, grade 9s? If we've got lithium, carbon, and oxygen, what do we get, grade 9? Lithium, we've got lithium and carbon and oxygen. What do we call that one? I'm waiting, grade 9. Calcium and sulfur, chlorine and sodium, nitrogen, lithium and oxygen, magnesium, oxygen and phosphorus. What do we call those? It's your homework, grade 9s. I'm not going to answer that for you. It's a homework. Please do find out that. If you've got any problems, please DM me on Twitter at MbataX, or you can also DM me on Instagram at XKIM. That's your homework. And then we've also have this preparing for the next lesson, grade 9. This is preparing you for the next lesson. Give the chemical name of the compounds below. H2O, K2O, and LiCl, CaSO4, NaCO3. Note, compound is formed when an element reacts with another element to form a compound. Remember that I gave you steps. There are 4 steps into naming compounds. Let us look at the steps again, grade 9s. The steps of naming compounds. There are 4 steps in naming compound. You identify the element in the compound, write down the name of the metal first. So you already know where you find your metal, where you can find your metals in the periodic table. And then if the compound contains only 2 elements, name the second element and change the ending to IgE. Are we clear? And then if the compound contains 3 elements, one of which is oxygen, name the element that is not oxygen and change the ending to ATE. Are we clear on that one, grade 9? Before we leave each other, it is important to follow this link for more information. Remember, these slides will be posted to you soon. Immediately after this lesson, if you did not catch this lesson, you can also get the video on YouTube. And then in the next lesson, grade 9s, you will actually be, in the next lesson, we'll look at the names of compounds. I said I've just given you, this homework so that you can actually see, because I've given you how to name compounds. I want to see, this is a compound. This is a compound. You can see that here, the H2O, we've got 2 elements. K2O, we've got 2 elements. With LiCl, we've got 2 elements. CaSO4, and we've got 3 elements. NaCO3, we've got 3 elements. So now I want you to use those 4 naming compound steps so that you can actually understand how we are naming the compounds. Are we clear, grade 9? So in the next lesson, we'll look at the names of compounds, chemical equations to represent reactions, balancing the equation. Please do join us. We'll be looking at why is it H2O2 here. So please try and balance the above chemical equation in the next lesson. You will know how to balance, because if you're looking at H2 plus O2 and then the product is H2O, therefore we've got 2 hydrogens this side and 1 oxygen. In the next lesson, you will balance that this side, if we've got 2 hydrogens, if this side we've got 2 oxygens, also on the right hand side there must be 2 oxygen. We'll learn how to balance the equation in the next lesson. And please try and balance the above equation if you can. Grade 9s, don't forget actually to follow us on our social media at Africa Teen Geeks, at Iziora, at DBESA, at Sasol Foundation, and you can also hashtag us at STEM Champs. I will be taking few questions just now if you have any questions, grade 9s. Do you, grade 9s, have any questions? Do you, grade 9s, have any questions? I'm still here for the next 5 minutes if you've got questions. Yes, grade 9, I'm waiting on you.
Muted all participants and mute you guys.
Wow.
It's when you start having side too, so that shit disturbing, man. Disturbing.
Any questions?
Yeah, but you're speaking too fast.
Who?
Muted us when we
I don't
were.
think the to ask questions.
Well, I was born in Spain. I've seen my footprint
We
is
see
like
here.
from when I was born. I was born in Spain.
No
But
question.
So that means you don't have to cut it anymore.